Hola clase y bienvenido a la última clase. Felicidades. Y el título de nuestra lección hoy es ¿Cómo va a seguir? Pienso en muchas diferentes variedades para hacer un examen, pero no pienso que más exámenes es necesario en este punto. Pienso que la cosa más importante es reflejar cómo va a seguir. How are you going to continue? ¿Cómo va a seguir aprendiendo español sin la clase, sin la profesora? Porque esta parte es más importante. This is probably the more important part. You've put all this time and energy. Most of you have taken quite a few semesters with me at this point. And so how are you going to use all this knowledge that you've obtained and apply it to the real world and keep up with it if you really want to continue your Spanish? And so today vamos a discutir muchas cosas diferentes, pero voy a dar inspiración para seguir aprendiendo el lenguaje. I want to inspire you to continue learning the language on your own. ¿Y por qué es importante? Vamos a comenzar con el mundo hispanohablante. We're going to start with the Spanish-speaking world. Y preguntas pienso que ustedes saben. ¿Hay cuántos hispanohablantes nativos en los Estados Unidos en 2022? As of 2022, how many native Spanish speakers are in the United States? Nosotros tenemos 4 opciones: 51 millones, 12 millones, 43 millones o 19 millones. Bueno, exacto. Hay 43 hispanohablantes nativos en los Estados Unidos. Es muchísimo. Es casi 30% de nuestra población. It is almost 30% of our population and will be 30% by el año 2050. Entonces, es una buena razón a seguir aprendiendo español. It is a great reason to continue learning Spanish. Tú puedes poner en cada parte de tu vida, no matter what field you're going into, you will be able to use Spanish and then also be able to communicate with so many other people. And this will just enhance your skills, let's say you're going to marketing. Imagine able to reach 43 million more people than you wouldn't have otherwise. Y mira, además, hay 12 millones hablantes bilingües. Yo soy una de los 12 millones. There are 12 million speakers that are bilingual. Entonces, hay alrededor de 54 millones de hispanohablantes en los Estados Unidos. There is around 54 million Spanish speakers in the United States. Alone, there's 43 native speakers. You add that 12 bilingual, como yo, and there's 54 million. So that's a pretty reasonable number to still stay involved with Spanish. And depende en dónde vas. Si vas a Miami, la mayoría de la gente en Miami habla español. The majority of people in Miami speak Spanish. También en diferentes partes de California y Texas y Arizona. Entonces, hay muchas oportunidades con el lenguaje de español. ¿Hay cuántos hispanohablantes nativos en el mundo? Vamos a practicar los números con las opciones, ¿no? 564 millones, 486 millones, 1 billón o 289 millones. $486 millones en el mundo. Es significado, ¿no? Otra razón que aprendiendo español es súper importante porque cada año la tecnología es mejor y cada año nosotros podemos comunicar con más y más gente. Entonces, si puede comunicar con más gente en el mundo, hay más oportunidades. Español es segundo en la lista de lenguajes más hablados en el mundo. Por supuesto, chino es número 1. So Spanish is number 2 on the list of languages most spoken in the world. And of course, Chinese is número 1 porque China tiene la población más grande. Ok, vamos. ¿Qué país tiene la más grande población de hispanohablantes? What country has the largest population of Spanish speakers? México, exacto. Y recuerda que IIUU es una abbreviation por los Estados Unidos. Sí, los Estados Unidos, como nosotros hacemos USA. So, México tiene la más grande población. Pienso que hay 126 millones. México tiene la población de 126 millones. Los Estados Unidos no es oficialmente un país hispanohablante, pero es segundo en la lista de países con los más hispanohablantes. Este es súper interesante. So, hay 21 países hispanohablantes oficialmente. Y los Estados Unidos no es uno de los 21. Pero nosotros tenemos más de la mayoría del resto de los países de hispanohablantes. Los Estados Unidos tienen más hispanohablantes de 20 países hispanohablantes. So the United States has more speakers than 20 of the Spanish-speaking countries that are official Spanish-speaking countries. So, otra razón que aprendiendo español es muy importante. So we have the second highest populations of Spanish-speaking out of all Spanish-speaking countries. Ay, Dios mío, vamos a seguir aprendiendo español porque es súper importante. Okay. Ay, ¿qué falta? What am I missing? Un acento y también mi pregunta aquí. Depende ¿Dónde puede viajar y hablar español? Okay, well, one of the reasons we learn Spanish is not only for our jobs. So like I mentioned, no matter what field you're going into, knowing Spanish is just going to be a huge benefit. Pero ¿dónde puede viajar? ¿Y dónde puede hablar español? So if you're going to learn how to speak Spanish, where can you go to travel to speak Spanish? So por supuesto, vamos a practicar geografía, mi cosa favorita, porque es importante que nosotros sabemos dónde estamos. Okay, so número 1. Podemos viajar a Colombia para vacaciones, ¿no? ¿Y la capital de Colombia? Bogotá. Muy bien. Número 2. Podemos viajar a... So I'm saying we can travel to Ecuador. ¿Y la capital de Ecuador? Quito. Perfecto. Ay, número 3. Es mi país favorito en América del Sur. Pero solamente he visitado un país en América del Sur, so no es actualmente justo. So I've only visited one country in South America, and I'm sure that I would love the other one, so it's not really fair to say. Es mi favorito, pero me gusta ir a este país mucho. Perú, exacto. ¿Y la capital de Perú? Lima, muy bien. Oh, I have happy fingers. Okay, so número 4. Bolivia, y hay 2 capitales de Bolivia, La Paz y El Sucre, y siempre me gusta hablar de un lago muy famoso entre Bolivia y Perú. I always like to talk about a famous lake that sits between Peru and Bolivia that I've visited before that has the islas flotandos. Lago Titicaca. Muy bien, Lago Titicaca. All right, número 5. Podemos viajar a Chile. Muy bien. ¿Y la capital de Chile? Santiago. Perfecto. Ok, número 6. Venezuela. Exacto. ¿Y la capital? Podemos viajar a Caracas. Muy bien. Número 7. No es un país hispanohablante, pero este país habla portugués. Brasil, exacto. ¿Y la capital de Brasil? Brasilia. Muy bien. Número 8. Paraguay y la capital de Paraguay. Asunción. Muy bien. Número 9. Argentina y la capital de Argentina. Buenos Aires. Fantástico. Número 10. Oh, I'm sorry. Uruguay. Disculpa. Disculpa means like sorry. Me equivoco. Me equivoco means I'm wrong. Me equivoco. So número 9 is Uruguay. I wasn't looking at la pantalla. No miraba la pantalla. I was not looking at the screen. Número 10 es Argentina y la capital es Buenos Aires. So estos son los países hispanohablantes en América del Sur que puede visitar y practicar tu español. So vamos ahora a América Central y el Caribe. So número 1 actualmente está en América del Norte y nosotros compartimos una frontera con este país. México, exacto. ¿Y la capital de México? La Ciudad de México. Muy bien. Número 2. Guatemala. ¿Y la capital de Guatemala? La Ciudad de Guatemala. Muy bien. Número 3. El Salvador. ¿Y la capital de El Salvador? San Salvador. Muy bien. Número 4. Este país tiene una capital que es difícil pronunciar. Honduras. ¿Y la capital? Tegucigalpa. Muy bien. Número 5. Me gusta mucho este país. Nicaragua. ¿Y la capital de Nicaragua? Managua. Muy bien. Número 6. Costa Rica. ¿La capital de Costa Rica? San José. ¿Y qué es la frase muy popular? Pura vida. Muy bien. Excelente. Número 7. Panamá. ¿La capital de Panamá? La ciudad de Panamá. Y también falta el acento en la A. So there should be an accent there in the A. Número 8. Es solamente 90 miles de los Estados Unidos. It's only 90 miles from the United States. Cuba. ¿Y la capital de Cuba? La Habana. Exacto. Número 9. La República Dominicana. ¿Y la capital? Santo Domingo. Y número 10. No necesitas pasaporte para visitarlo. Puerto Rico. Ay, Dios mío, necesitas un O. Puerto Rico. ¿Y la capital de Puerto Rico? San Juan. Muy bien. Ok, vamos. Y Europa, estamos aquí. So, número 1, porque solamente hay un país que habla español en Europa. España. Muy bien. ¿Y la capital de España? Madrid. Aquí, Portugal. Norte de España, Francia. So, nosotros discutimos viajando. We were just talking about traveling to diferentes países hispanohablantes. Y quiero compartir con ustedes las posibilidades de volar a Europa o otros países. So, por ejemplo, un vuelo de Buffalo a Madrid, so a flight from Buffalo to Madrid, ¿cuánto cuesta, piensa? ¿Cuánto cuesta? So, yo fui en un app, se llama JetBlue, es nuevo, ellos tienen vuelos nuevos a Europa. So, they have new flights to Europe. Y depende, hay diferentes ciudades. No son todas las ciudades en Europa, pero Madrid, Roma, París, Ámsterdam, como así. So, yo hice un search y Buffalo a Madrid, yo hice un search para diciembre. I did it for December, so about, 7 months out from now. Porque yo quiero mostrar el precio. I want to show you the price. So, Buffalo a Madrid ¿Cuánto cuesta? Piensa. What do you think? How much do you think that flight would cost? Cuesta 423. So, actualmente no es terrible, porque Madrid es bien lejos, no es super cerca. It's not really close, and so that's a little bit of a further flight, but 423 es posible, ¿no? Buffalo a Amsterdam, ¿cuánto cuesta? So, Amsterdam es más cerca de Madrid, más o menos. 273. ¿Cómo es posible? Es el mismo a volar a Miami, ¿no? Yo pago más a ir a California. I pay more to go to California. So, hay precios muy bajos para visitar Europa, especialmente si está haciendo y planeando antes, un año o 6 meses antes. Por supuesto, es más barato. It's cheaper. Buffalo a París, ¿qué piensa? So, Buffalo to Paris, 370. ¡Ay, Dios mío! ¡Es posible! Ahora yo quiero viajar a todas ciudades, pero necesito más tiempo y más dinero. También tengo un más ejemplo. Buffalo a Lima. So, ¿cuánto cuesta un vuelo de Buffalo a Lima? Lima es la capital de Perú. 521. Y este vuelo es 9-10 horas. So this is a 9 or 10 hour flight. So 521 es nada. So es posible viajar. Pienso que en los Estados Unidos nosotros tenemos una idea que es súper caro a viajar a Europa, pero en la realidad hay muchos precios muy bajos. So we have this idea that traveling to Europe is very expensive, but it actually can be very realistic if you plan ahead of time. So muy rápido, I didn't really talk about all the capitals here. So Madrid es la capital de España, perfecto. Amsterdam es la capital de el País Bajo. Si yo soy de Amsterdam, yo soy holandesa. Muy bien. París es la capital de Francia. Y si yo soy de París, yo soy francesa. Lima es la capital de Perú. Y si yo soy de Lima, yo soy peruana. So, muy bien. Just ideas a inspirar les a viajar, some just ideas for you guys to be inspired to travel, and especialmente con los jóvenes, with you younger ones. If you're from 18 to 26, they give very, very special prices to students who are traveling through Europe, and you can get a special student card. And so if you're between the ages of 18 and 26, there's all these special discounts that you can get in places because they encourage travel. They want young kids to travel. And so there are extra special deals for younger people. So es completamente posible. It is absolutely possible. Okay, so one of the things I'm going to talk about today as well is all these other resources. This is what's so amazing about technology and globalization, is that we are more in touch with other people around the world than ever. And I'm going to talk about a really cool experience I had yesterday, and hopefully you guys will walk away knowing how to teach yourself and to continue. So much of your education, we can only do so much in the classroom. The rest of it comes with your own proactivity. So how are you going to keep up with Spanish? How are you going to keep it part of your life if you really want to continue to improve? That has to come from you, and you have to set time aside to be able to continue on with the language. And so these are some of the resources that I use. Right now, I'm really trying to improve my French. I have logged so many hours in Spanish that I really want to get my French to where my Spanish is. And so that means I'm going to have to put in a lot more hours. So what I use for that is Duolingo, italki, which I'm going to talk about in a second. I used it for the first time yesterday, and it was just super, super chouette. It was so cool. Something that I love is Coffee Break Spanish. YouTube, I'm going to give you guys some links here so you guys can go and check out some of the YouTube channels that I followed to keep up with Spanish, different Spanish lessons. And so you can have access to that. I love TikTok for learning languages. I follow so many cool people from around the world. I'm able to listen to a guide speak in Spanish at Machu Picchu. I'm able to listen to a French person in Paris talk about the city. So there's so many opportunities there as well for you to expose your ear to the language, which is the most important part to learning a language. The hardest part is getting an ear for all of these foreign sounds. So the more you expose your ear to the language, and whether that be through music, whether that be through watching television, listening to YouTube podcasts, the quicker you are going to pick up on the language, because your ear is starting to get more familiar with those sounds that once sounded foreign to you. And so I cannot emphasize enough, if you really want to get better at languages, even when you're doing dishes, have Spanish music on. When you're driving to school, listen to a Spanish podcast. Even if you do not understand what they are saying, eventually, with you keep exposing your ear to it, you're going to recognize those sounds. I promise you. So what I did yesterday, let me see if I can. So here I listed all those ones that I just talked about before. I put the links right here. So you can click right on it and it'll take you to those so you guys can check those out. Coffee Break Languages. I do Spanish, but they have like 10 languages on there. So if you're interested in other languages as well, you really have the opportunity to expand your horizons there as well. And I can't emphasize enough, if you think it would be challenging to learn another Romance language, it's actually easier because you already have like the foundation of what it is to learn a Romance language. So don't feel discouraged. So vamos a hacer algo. Un momento. So I did this really cool site yesterday. It's called italki, and I came across it when I was listening to a podcast in French, and the person doing the podcast recommended it. So I was really curious about it. I had heard it before, but italki is this really cool site where you can go and put in your preference of language you want to learn, and then you can actually set up a time to speak with a native speaker. So the second thing that is most important besides listening and exposing your ear to the language, if you truly want to get to the next level with your Spanish, practicing with a native speaker will take you there. That is absolutely the best way. I'm just saying this after 21 years of teaching and then actually 26 years of learning languages. When I would do continuous practice and conversation with a native, my language skills just really skyrocketed. And so what's so great about this, there's so many different times. You could pick a 30-minute time slot. You could pick 60 minutes. And also there's different prices and different tutors. So yesterday I was trying to see if I could show you the video. I took a little video of it so you guys could see me struggle in French to give you confidence. But I couldn't find it. But you can choose what teacher you want for the price. So I paid $8 to speak in French for 30 minutes. And for me, this far into my career and me wanting to get better, I'm happy to pay that $8 to get better. So, and then if you do 10 lessons, it's cheaper. So for example, I could do 10 lessons for 30 minutes at $93. And so that's something I'm going to continue to do. Loved it yesterday. That 30 minutes got me thinking again in French in a conversational mode. And my French already improved from that one 30-minute time session. And so I cannot recommend italki enough. It was a super enjoyable experience. My teacher was from Nice, France, from the south of France. And so if you really want to get better, really it's up to you and how motivated you are. There are so many opportunities out there, especially with technology and how it has allowed us, again, this globalization, the very idea that when I first started learning languages, I had to carry around a 1,000-page dictionary. And now I can set up a time to speak with a native speaker in the south of France at 9:30 in the morning and see them face to face is like, why aren't you taking advantage of it, right? It is just an amazing world out there and so many ways for us to learn and continue our education. Okay, otra manera, kind of what I was talking about, is la música. Este es súper fácil. And I always say to you that when I first started learning Spanish, there was never Spanish music on the radio. There wasn't Spanish music on the radio until Enrique Iglesias in like 2002, I think. So now, this graphic illustrates Carol G., Grupo Firme, and Anita, who all attended Coachella Music and Arts Festival in 2022. The annual music festival hosted 20 Latin American artists in their lineup, which has been the most in Coachella's history. We have more exposure to music, Latino music, than we ever had before, and so there is no reason for us not to be entertained by it. And that's what I love about learning other languages. I'm introduced to even more and more artists as well, and so it's a really awesome opportunity. So what I have next is just a playlist that I have right now of some of my favorite Spanish songs. What an easy way to expose your ear to this amazing language. And so I thought maybe that would introduce you to some artists that I enjoy listening to, and then you could add them to your playlist as well. So aquí está mi playlist, Me Conecto by Salvas Pantallas, Despacito with Daddy Yankee, Dame la Fuerza. I try to give a range of all sorts of stuff. So music that I listen to all different types, including, jazz to old school mariachi music to techno dance. So I love it all. So you're going to kind of see that here on this list. I try to cover everything. Right now, what I'm really into is this one over here on the right-hand side where it says Alegría by Elia y Elizabeth. This song is so en fuego. And what's so cool about this album, these albums were, there was only 2 of them that were made, and they were made by sisters, Elia and Elizabeth in Colombia. And it was during the 70s. So this has such a 70s vibe. It's so cool. These 2 sisters produced 2 albums that became very, very popular. And then one went on to become a nun and one went on to become a teacher, and they never really sang again. And so listening to this music that was created in the 70s, and I like it because you really can hear the pronunciation, and so it'd be a great way for you to learn some new words or new phrases in Spanish. So definitely check out Elia y Elizabeth. Es muy interesante. So hay lista muy buena aquí a comenzar un lista de playlist. So this is a great start for you to start to make a Spanish playlist. All right, vamos a continuar. So hay más cosas aquí. I just kind of put links here to other ones I love. I get so much information from NPR, especially with things that are happening locally in Latino cultures and so on. So for example, I put some of my favorite stories that connect with more artists. Take a walk down the oldest in LA with La Santa Cecilia, and it kind of gets into Los Angeles and the influence of the Mexican culture there. So I put some of my favorite links of stories that I like there, and I also put links to Tiny Desk concerts. This is also done by NPR, but there are so many Latino artists that you can have exposure to that would really educate you in a lot of ways, but also makes it a really enjoyable way to learn Espanol. And so I put those for you there as well. I also put one of my favorite podcasts. It's Latino USA. What's really cool about this, Latino USA is one of the only and one of the first podcasts out there that tells the Latino story. And it's from the Latino perspective. And so it is a really cool show. There's so many different podcasts here. So definitely check them out if you want to learn more about different Latinos in our culture and the experience that they're having. And so I think that can be really powerful. All right, vamos a continuar. So también, si quieres aprender más, yo tengo un TikTok y yo soy Professor Bridget Beeline. Yo voy a París en 2 semanas y voy a hacer algunos videos en vivo. So I am going to do some videos live, videos en vivo. For my students to enjoy. And so if you're on your phone between May 23rd and May 27th, check me out on TikTok. I will be in Paris, probably having the time of my life, at least I hope. But this is also a great way to follow some of the content that I'm creating. I will be putting up small reminders about how grammatical things and so on. So that might be a way that you can stay learning. And you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can keep up with any new lessons I put up, even if you're not in my class anymore. Okay, so La última cosa es el valor de viajar. So again, one of the reasons I did a lesson like this is that I know that you did not need another 100-question exam and feeling overwhelmed once you leave my class. I want you to feel inspired to continue to learn the language. I want you to feel inspired to learn on yourself. I want you to be inspired to become proactive in your own education. Esta es la cosa súper importante en la vida. When you no longer have the direction of school or a professor, you really need to start becoming proactive. So an easy way to learn is el valor de viajar, is the value of travel. Viajando cambió mi vida. Traveling changed my life. Porque es el aprendizaje experimental. So this is experiential learning. You learn by doing. Having conversaciones con nativos, having native conversations with natives is really powerful and a great way to improve your language skills really quickly. But also you learn by doing, so you're learning history, you're learning culture, you're learning about the food, and all of these things encompass learning a language, and so it's such an enjoyable way to do that. Porque el valor de viajar, yo soy una ciudadana global ahora. Yo puedo ver mi puesto en el mundo. I can see my place in the world as a global citizen now that I've stepped out of my culture and have been able to reflect on how we run our system. And nuestro sistema es bien, pero puede ser mejor, but it could be better. And traveling outside and viewing how different ideas of living can work me da mucha inspiración. It gives me a lot of inspiration, and I also see, again, my place in this world. 80% of the world lives in poverty, and so that is the majority. So to be able to see myself and the power I hold to improve our global community is an amazing feeling. También, ideas de viviendo. When you travel, you're able to see the different ideas of living. And the Mexican way of life is no better or worse than the Dutch way of life, than the American way of life. And so we all have the American dream, the Peruvian dream, the Uruguayan dream. And so it's so neat to go see what that means to other cultures and other societies, because they definitely have different values. And it's really awesome to see. One of the most important things I want my students walking away with is the very idea that they could have a better quality of life in the United States. And so traveling, learning languages helps to open up what is possible. Vamos, reflejarse. No podía reflejar en mi comunidad hasta que yo fui afuera de mi comunidad. I couldn't reflect on my community that I lived with until I went outside of it and was able to reflect. You know, I could talk all I want about how amazing all these different ideas of life are, but until you step outside of this bubble that we live in, it's really hard to put it into the ability to reflect on how we do it compared to others. So the ability to reflect on your own life and know what you want and know that you want something better. I think es muy importante y parte de el valor de viajar. Y también la gente. Siempre nosotros oímos muchas cosas negativas del mundo. So many times we hear negative things about the world. Y hay personas malos, por cierto. Of course there's bad people, pero por lo menos la mayoría de gente son increíbles. The majority of people are really, really fantastic. People have made my experience in this world. And so when I go and travel, usually my most rewarding experience is talking and living and being with those people in that culture. And so people make your experience. So if you're going to travel, try to reach out to the local communities and experience the local life. It will change how you travel. So people are what make the difference when it comes to traveling, and people can be really, really amazing. So keep that in mind. So speaking of traveling, I just wanted to plant this seed as well. Yo voy a Europa el año que viene. I'm going to Europe next May. And this study abroad program is open to many people. So la primera, to anyone. So even if you're at a different school and you want to cross-register, you could absolutely do that. Vamos a pasar 4 días en España, y los highlights are la Sagrada Familia. I did it in the wrong order. After all of that work, you guys, could you imagine? La vida de una profesora. Necesita tener muchas paciencia. Oh, this is the one I needed to put the animation on. Okay. So I just want to show you La Sagrada Familia. This is, it didn't work. That's okay. I'm just going to have to go with it. I'm just going to have to go with my imperfections. So this is La Sagrada Familia. It is a church that's been in the making for 130 years. Then we're going to visit the Gothic quarters, which is right here, which is really cool. And then we head to Dali's museum in Figueres, which I am so over the top excited about. It's just going to be an amazing experience. And then after that, we head to the south of the French Riviera. I guess I could have done this better too. The French Riviera. I did one thing right. So the French Riviera, where I will continue to practice my French. I am so excited to go to France in a couple months. Or a couple weeks to continue to practice it. And I'm going to keep using that italki that I talked about. So then we head to the French Riviera and take a day trip to Monaco and do a perfume factory walking tour of Nice. And then vamos a Italia. So estoy súper emocionada de ir a Italia. Vamos a Cinque Terre. Este es una ciudad muy pequeña donde no hay coches. So it's a walkable city where there is no traffic. So vamos a visitar Cinque Terre in the Five Lands, a series of small villages that have been carved into the Italian coastline. Después vamos a visitar Pisa y después Florencia. Entonces, hay un montón de cosas que hacer. So many amazing things to do. So if you're thinking about traveling, I am taking students next year. And for me, there is no better reward than taking my students abroad with me so they can see their place as a global citizen. So as you walk away from the semester and you're about to go take your final exam, I hope that you feel inspired to continue learning Spanish or another language on your own. I hope you feel inspired to travel. And I just hope that you feel like you can go out and be a better global citizen. So it has been an absolute pleasure teaching all of you. I am not a teacher without my students. It's been really fun watching all of you grow, especially for those of you that I've had for a couple semesters. I wish you the absolute best of luck in all of your future endeavors. Please reach out to me. I'm happy to be a resource or a reference if you need one. Que tenga una vida magnífica. Nos vemos. Ciao.